What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman of the Time Teller, and welcome to this installment of Micro Brand Monday. Now, today, I'm actually not positive what I'm about to unbox. All I do know is that this was sent to our P.O. box, okay? This, like, department store bag. Burei, it seems to have, like, a little embossed, like, image of a watch. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I went to their Instagram and it seems that they are a Chinese Rolex homage watchmaker. So I guess we're going deeper down the rabbit hole when it comes to these Rolex homages. You know, first we took a look at an Invicta Pro Diver, then, you know, we took a look at that Pagani design ceramic Daytona homage. And now we're gonna take a look at a Burei watch. I don't know which model they've sent, but we're gonna go ahead and unbox it and figure it out. It is 1:26 p.m. Let's get down to business. Guys, here it is, the watch in question. Upon doing some further research, I guess this is their 500 meter automatic is what they call it, from Burei. Again, I hadn't heard of this watchmaker at all before they sent me this piece, so we're kind of learning together. Also included in this kind of metal hard case is a user manual, some Chinese. And yeah, I notoriously do not read this, but don't worry. I have all the specs on this baby, and we're gonna take a closer look. Let's get this out of the packaging. There seems to be a whole lot of plastic all over this watch, and I can already tell. Oyster style bracelet, Rolex style clasp, and some definite crystal distortion here. Very interesting. Let's take a look. All right, so we have the watch fully out of the packaging, and the plot thickens, okay? I've never seen this done before when it comes to Micro Brand Monday. This is like an amalgamation of a Rolex Submariner and an Omega Seamaster. Like, I'm getting Omega Seamaster vibes from the handset, but then we move to Rolex Submariner with the bezel, but then back to Omega with the crown guards, and then back to Rolex with the bracelet and clasp. What is going on here? This is so interesting to me. So of course we can't really do this review without acknowledging the fact that this does share some similarities between some heavy hitters within the diving world, you know, the Omega Seamaster and the Rolex Submariner, pretty much the top two divers when we're looking at Swiss luxury sports watches. But we review the watches that are in front of us, so how does this stand on its own? Well, according to the spec sheet, this has a single-domed sapphire crystal, a ceramic bezel, a Seiko Instruments NH35 automatic movement, so you are getting hacking, hand wind, and a date complication. You know, no high beat sweep, no bells and whistles here, but it's an accurate enough movement that is tried and true, and I definitely consider it a reliable, accurate enough workhorse movement. And again, we see it all the time here on Micro Brand Monday. You're getting all of this for around $200. So that's pretty good bang per buck, but how does this all fit together? How does it feel? Well, let's go ahead, test the crown setting and function, and of course, we need to see if this gets the T3 seal of approval when it comes to the bezel, because I need to know, if I have a timing bezel, can I use it to time my DiGiorno pizza? Well, let's take a look. Okie dokie, so when we're taking a look at the crown, it's not a signed crown, okay? It just has a nice mirrored polish finish. There is some serrations here, and again, kind of smoother crown guards, almost taking a page out of Omega's book. Let's go ahead, unthread it. Ooh, binds up a little bit there. Okay, not the smoothest crown. Let's go ahead though, I don't want to speak too soon. Okay, definitely not the smoothest crown, and you really, boy, oh boy, oh boy, yeah. To unthread it, that is not the most pleasant experience. But let's go ahead, check out the crown setting and function. First, let's move the handset around, because we can see that it was kind of mid-date change there. Okay. So not the smoothest threading or unthreading, but it does have two very distinct crown settings, so you're not going to, you know, miss the first or second setting. That's very good. Let's put the handset to a nice, appealing look. Look at that. Kind of that broad arrow hour hand. Definite Omega vibes with the handset and dial. And awesome crystal distortion coming from that single dome sapphire. You know, some people don't like single domed crystals because they magnify and distort, but I absolutely love it. No complaints there from me. All right, so we've tested the crown. Now it's time to test the bezel and see if I will give it the T3 seal of approval. So definite ratcheting, you can feel that. When you get where you need to go, will it back out on you? The tiniest bit of play, okay? You really got to yank on it, but it has a tiniest bit of play. You know what? This is by far not the worst. It's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. I would feel confident using this as a timing device if I want to. So if we line it up, yeah, you really got to yank on it to get it to budge at all. So yeah, this gets the T3 Pizza seal of approval. Good job. By far the best part about this watch is that single domed crystal though. I just love it. So as we lay the watch flat, we can take a look at the case dimensions. We're looking at a 42 millimeter case diameter with a 48 millimeter lug to lug. Thankfully, this is only a couple millimeters outside that 40 millimeter sweet spot, and thankfully it's just under that 50 millimeter threshold when we're talking about lug to lug. So is it going to be the best watch for smaller wrists? Probably not, but it's not going to be gargantuan. Now, here's where it is a bit big. 15.8 millimeters thick with a couple of those millimeters coming from that single domed crystal. So is it going to be cumbersome? Perhaps. We don't know till we put it on the wrist, so let's go ahead and throw it on there. And of course, since we're going to put it on the wrist, let's take a look at the bracelet first. We're looking at some solid end links here, not bad. Some pretty tight tolerances, no awkward spaces or rattling coming from that part of the watch. You know, especially for a watch this affordable, I'm very impressed that they went with solid end links. What they could have done better is maybe give it some drilled lugs. Now, what I will say, since we're here, some pretty nice brushed grains coming from the faces here of the crown guards. So we have actual dual finishing, which is impressive at this price range. You know, we're getting some brushed grains on the flatter surfaces of the watch head, and then we're getting some polished finishes, some mirrored polishing on the round areas on the case head, which is very, very nice. We have some oyster styled links here. They all seem to be very, very mobile, no awkward binding like we were seeing with the Pagani design Daytona homage. And then when we get to the clasp, it is a definite Rolex style clasp. Here we have some adhesive from the protective plastic. So that's not, you know, a scratch in the metal. That's just some sticky glue. Let's go ahead and talk about what I think is the most interesting part of the clasp. You have toolless micro adjustments. So if you want the watch to be a bit tighter on the wrist, you can slide it forwards, or if you want some extra real estate on that wrist, slide it backwards. Very, very cool. All right, here it is on my 7.5-inch wrist for reference. Here's what I'm gonna say. Doesn't feel super cumbersome. However, it does wear larger than my 16800 Submariner, and that's to be expected. Obviously, the case dimensions are much larger. Here's also what I have to say. If you have a smaller wrist than 7.5 inches, the lug to lug might be a bit big. Now, technically, the lug to lug is sub 50 millimeter, but these solid end links do add a couple extra millimeters of material on either side, bringing it just above 50 millimeters. So yeah, if you do have more of a slender wrist, this is probably not going to be the first watch you should look at. I would choose something well below 50 millimeters when everything is said and done. But doesn't feel cumbersome, feels actually pretty good on the wrist. And again, love the distortion and the magnification from that single domed sapphire. I just can't get enough of that. Now, as we close in on that date complication, we can see the 19 is centered in that date window, nicely bordered. However, there's a bit of an imperfection that's catching the light right above. It's like right in the center of the top border of that frame. You can see Gato, my editor, is going to circle it. I don't think it's dust. I think it's probably just a finishing imperfection, so a bit of a tool mark, a bit of a burr. Let's go ahead and inspect the rest of the dial. Again, what I will say, this macro lens, incredibly unforgiving. You're not going to see that with the naked eye, and I also have to say that the imperfections on this watch are not necessarily indicative of every other watch made by Burei. But, of course, like I tell everybody, I gotta review the pieces that are here in front of me. Here's another thing I always say. White dials may show some specks and debris if there are little flecks of things on the dial, but black dials will show everything. And I mean everything. So watchmakers, when you're making a black dialed watch, be very vigilant about the cleanliness of your workspace, because here we can see right under the spindle, kind of right, like center right, I will say. Gato, you can circle that. There's like 3 specks. There's 1, 2, and then 3 right above the T on the automatic. We're seeing a few more right around the 8 o'clock index. So there's a few little white specks that, again, you will not be able to see with the naked eye. I didn't notice them for the entire review up until we started doing these macro shots here. So yeah, just gotta be, vigilant about how clean your work area is when you're working on these watches. Now on this shot, because of the light, we can really see some debris on the dial, kind of all over the place. This is not something I was able to see while I was moving the watch around. It's only when I swap to the macro lens. Now, on the hour hand, we also see some imperfections, upon finishing. The edge of that broad arrow, just pretty much all around. There's a few tool marks. It wasn't really finished that well. Overall, the mirrored polish does catch the light nicely, but that's just because of the angles. Overall, the finishing there on the handset, not the best. Another thing I'd like to pan in on, the inking on this ceramic insert for the bezel, a bit sloppy, right? Around that 10, some of the hash marks before that and after that, it's just a bit sloppy. We can see some bleeding over. So yeah, I mean, with a watch that's coming in with all these pretty decent specifications for around $200, they're going to cut some corners, guys. I gotta show you the bad with the good. Is it a spec monster? Yeah, some pretty impressive materials as far as sapphire and ceramic. Some pretty nice, I would say, overall feel of the watch as far as everything being put together, but the imperfections with the tool marks, with the debris on the dial, and with the poor inking here, yeah, they're definitely cut some corners. And as far as the case back goes, pretty standard, nothing really to see here. Screw down case back, has the manufacturer's name, has the water resistance, sapphire crystal, stainless steel. Yeah, just kind of standard stuff. Lume time, I actually don't know what kind of lume they use, and it was not anywhere on the spec sheet, so let's just see if it glows, yeah? Hit it with the UV torch, bada bing, bada boom. It looks good on playback, but to the naked eye, the only thing that's really glowing vibrantly is the pip on the bezel. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Yeah, not the best lume. Bezel's glowing very nicely. Everything else kind of dim. So I doubt this is Super Luminova. Not the best lume. Okay, so we spent an afternoon with this Burei 500 meter diver. Is it a whole lot of watch? Absolutely. I mean, according to the spec sheet, you're getting a ton of watch here. But here's my question to you. Is it the highest quality of watch, and can you live with these imperfections? The truth is, there's a whole lot of debris under that crystal. The inking is kind of bleeding over on the bezel. Me personally, as a guy that likes to get up close with my watches and film them and take a bunch of macro shots for Instagram, I probably couldn't have this watch in my personal collection. Those things would just bother me way too much. However, if you're someone who just wants a spec monster, okay, at this entry-level price, you want to spend $200 and get a really, really impressively spec'd watch, and you don't really care about those little details, the little sediment under the crystal, and you don't care about the bezel inking, then I guess this is an option for you, absolutely. You know, the watch feels good. It has a great movement in it. I just think that they definitely cut corners. But for a watch that's $200, of course they're going to have to cut corners with what they produce and how they produce it. So we just need to have some perspective there and be honest with what we have in front of us. So guys, aside from this watch, I've never experienced anything from this watchmaker. So if any of you own any other product from this watchmaker, please leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know, because I learned from you guys just as much as you learned from me, and it would be really interesting to hear about some of their other watches. If any of you have any information about that, again, leave me the comment. And of course, I want to thank Burei and all the other watchmakers that support us here for this Microbrand Monday segment. We can't do it without the support of these watchmakers. I want to thank all my channel members for making it possible to film every single day. And I want to thank you, the viewer watching this right now. What is a channel without a viewer? Thank you so much for being here. Again, we are well into the 160,000s, 163,000, I think. Wow. I can't believe it, guys. You freaking rock. Seriously. Yeah. I'm at a loss for words. I never in a million years would have imagined being here with a channel with over 160,000 subscribers. So I get to play with watches all day, film them, and rant about them, and it's all because of you. So guys, thank you. I love each and every one of you. And yeah, you've changed my life. So thank you guys. If you want to support the channel, become a channel member. Click the join button next to the subscribe button. Check out the affiliate links in the description below. When you click those links and shop around, you do help the channel out directly. You can check out the TimeTellerShop.com, which is the #1 place to find affordable vintage luxury watches, and they're handpicked by me. Guys, stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I will see you in the next episode. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.